to Verified Live. We start with flooding described as the worst in nearly 100 years in Russia and Kazakhstan. Thousands have been forced from their homes, cities under threat, evacuations ongoing. Well, the flooding in the Urals and western Siberia has been caused by unseasonably warm temperatures, which has melted the snow. In the Russian city of Orenburg, home to 500,000 people, the authorities said water levels had reached dangerous levels. Thousands of people have already left the city. Orenburg is downstream from the city of Osk, which was inundated when a dam burst last week. Well, let's go straight to Moscow and straight to our Russia editor, Steve Rosenberg. And Steve, just give me a sense of the scale of this, first of all. Well, the first thing to say is that spring flooding is common, right, in Russia. When winter turns to spring and the snow melts, we see flooding, but nothing on this scale. I mean, and it's beyond Russia, right? You mentioned Kazakhstan. 97,000 people have been evacuated from the flood zone in Kazakhstan. As for Russia, more than 12,000 people have been evacuated from their homes. You mentioned Orenburg. I think more than 7,000 people have been evacuated from Orenburg, and boats have been sailing around the city there, sirens wailing, people being called on to leave their homes in different districts of the city. So the scale is quite big, and there's an economic consequence here too. As far as we know, casualty figures are low at the moment. I've heard maybe 4 or 5 people have been killed over the last few days in this flooding. But it's flooding which has affected lots of communities, lots of settlements in the area of the Ural Mountains and western Siberia. We're seeing pictures, aerial pictures of just the huge amount of territory that this flooding is actually hitting and impacting. Are the water levels still rising? Talk me through the amount of help people are getting on the ground. The water levels, as far as we know, are still rising in Orenburg. And in fact, President Putin's spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, earlier today said that the situation was expected to get worse. In other places, water levels have fallen. For example, in the town of Orsk that you mentioned, it was quite interesting a few days ago. An angry crowd gathered in Orsk to vent their fury on local officials, on the regional governor of Orenburg, on the local mayor, who they believe didn't warn them in time that this flood was coming. They criticized Russia's Minister for Emergency Situations too. They didn't criticize the Kremlin, which is quite interesting. They were actually chanting, "Putin, help us, Putin, help us," as if the president sitting in the Kremlin in Moscow was the good Tsar. According to Russian tradition, someone that they believe could actually help solve their problems, give them compensation, make things better. Exactly on that point with Vladimir Putin, has he said anything about this himself directly? We see him so vocal on international matters, the operation in Ukraine. What about something like this domestically, with people calling for him to step in? Have we heard from him at all? So the official message from the Kremlin is that Vladimir Putin is across this completely. He's being kept informed. He is dealing with the situation, coordinating the situation. We haven't seen that yet. We haven't seen the pictures of this, and there's no suggestion at the moment that Vladimir Putin is going to visit the flood area. At the moment, the message is being put out there that the president is in full control of the situation, but we haven't actually seen evidence of that. Steve Rosenberg live there in Moscow. Thanks very much.